People in spirit have never tried to scare you, even if you have had a somewhat or very frightening experience. I really believe that. I think the ugliness of people is very much a physical life thing. Nobody comes into life that way. And I've talked about in lots of videos, everyone, in my experience, everyone gets better after they pass. Nice people stay nice, and unpleasant people become a better version of themselves, become their better selves. Lots of reasons maybe behind that, but my point of this video is there's no intent to scare us. So I'm remembering what made me think of this is something that happened in my late teens. Um, People in spirit had played with me my whole life, but I didn't necessarily realize that was what was happening. But sometimes things happened around other people. Usually it was in my own home, on my own. So this one time, it was in my late teens, I was at a friend's house. We were facing each other, having a conversation, and we heard, and we looked over, and my glass of chocolate milk, which had been on a table kind of off to my left, but out of reach, was now smashed in the middle of the floor. Broken glass and chocolate milk all over the wood floor. And the guy I was talking to, my friend, said to me, "Oh, clean it up." And I said, I didn't do that, And in complete seriousness, he said, "Well, it wasn't me, so it had to have been you." And so I said, "Okay, we're having a conversation. We're looking at each other. How are you rationalizing that I stood up, walked over there, picked up or threw the milk? Because if it had fallen off the table, it would have broken near the table, or there'd be splashes of milk near the table. Everything was over in the middle of the room. So how do you rationalize that I stood up, walked over there, picked up or threw the milk in the middle of the room, came back over here and sat down, and you didn't notice? Like, is that what you're saying?" And he said, in complete seriousness, "There are two people in this room, and it wasn't me, so obviously it was you." And he meant it. At the time, and I've seen other people do this. He grew up to be a scientist, by the way. I've seen other people do this where the way they define and understand the world, something happens outside of that definition, and their minds they just can't wrap their heads around it. But now I also recognize that as a scared response. He was frightened by what had happened, and we were, very young. So that makes me think of when, as a way of explanation, when I was in my early 20s, I was having lunch. It was on my lunch hour. I was outside. It was a Third Street Promenade in Santa Monica, and this puppy, brand new puppy, had apparently never seen birds before. It was just fascinated. It was like crawling on its belly up, crawling behind birds, and then walking up to these flocks of pigeons and barking at them and making them scatter. And the birds, were just terrified and startled, and the puppy looked like it was having the time of its life. And even at that time, I thought, wow, that's two really different perspectives on the same experience. If you were to ask the birds what happened today versus if you asked the puppy what happened today, they'd give very different stories. I really believe when things happen, like objects moving on their own or disappearing and come back, which I've talked about in other videos, people in spirit affecting the physical world, there's no intent to frighten there. What happened, happened. And what we make of it, how we make sense of it, or what we decide about it is what makes it scary or not. Like the glass of milk breaking, to me, it happened. It was very inconvenient. It was annoying, but I wasn't frightened by that. But I also grew up with that kind of thing happening in the homes that I lived in. So, no intent to frighten. Now, I have to say that, that all being said, a few months ago, I did get scared. And even while it was happening, I realized that was ridiculous. So I don't know, earlier in this year, I got up in the middle of the night. I was hungry. I went downstairs to get a snack. It was like 2 or 3 in the morning. It was really early. And immediately I could feel somebody behind me, the way I feel someone when I'm doing the reading, a mediumship reading. And I thought, well, that's weird because, obviously I don't have a client in front of me. And I got into the kitchen, it got even stronger. And in my head, I said, well, I'm not reading. It's the middle of the night, I'm getting a snack. There's nothing I can do. And it got even stronger, this really insistent communication feeling that I get from them. So, and I was tired and I was hungry and I was annoyed. So kind of annoyed and kind of rude, I said out loud, "Just go away, because there's nothing I can do for you right now. I'm not reading. Get lost." Like whatever I said, it was rude and short. and the lights came on under the kitchen cabinets in my kitchen. And it scared me. It wasn't a short circuit. The switch had been flipped. I know that because I had to flip it back off. So, and the feeling of the person went away. As I was frightened when the lights came on, because I was eating in the dark, there was enough light coming in from the window that I hadn't turned on any lights. I also was not dressed. I realized it made me think of a Margaret Cho, the comedian Margaret Cho, how she says that when women look into a mirror and they see something wrong, they see flaws, that is billions and billions of advertising dollars working to make you think there's something wrong with your appearance and you need someone else's product to feel better about yourself or to look normal or to look pretty. And I was thinking as I was scared in that moment, that's billions of dollars in movies and television portraying the supernatural almost universally in a negative way. And that's what was informing how I was feeling. Because I feel, so in that moment, I reached for my parents and grandparents just to comfort myself. I could feel them. I'm like, okay, I'm going to bed. And feeling kind of foolish, I went upstairs and went to bed. So that's my thoughts and feelings on people who have had, because I know there are people who have had experiences that frightened them. But I want you to ask yourself exactly what happened, and was it really frightening? Like the lights coming on, is that frightening? I mean, lights came on, big deal, right? I wasn't injured. I wasn't, I don't know. I think you can turn that into something like having the lights come on. I turned into, very briefly, turned it into a scary experience, but I really don't think that that was the intent. And now I look back on that feeling kind of silly, a regret. See, I was groggy and I was not thinking clearly. And it was such a strong, insistent communication. I feel like, oh, I should have tried something. I don't know if I should have written something down or just recorded into my phone, but there was no client in front of me. And so I really felt like there's nothing I can do in this moment for whoever this is that wants to communicate. Anyway, those are my thoughts. Thank you for listening. Next week, I'm going to talk about mediumship group exercises in circles, mediumship practice circles that I've really enjoyed and gotten some value out of. So tune in for that. And if you have any questions or comments, leave them below and I'll try and do a video about that. Thank you.